Welcome back to the Love to Mom podcast. I am Jerry, and as always, I'm joined by my open and welcoming mother, Christy.
Jerry, you're the best. And your opens just get me every time. That the smile on your face when you say hi is just the most adorable thing ever.
Yeah, I have to make it distinct from my other shows.
That's
So,
right. I like it.
yeah, so this week, hopefully this comes out in time. We are recording this very close to the end of the month, but this is our Black History Month special. I'm doing it right at the end here.
Yes.
Last week you picked American Fiction, which came out, I was going to say last year, but I guess technically it's 2 years ago now, 2023.
Mhm.
And I guess we can get started just in general. What did you think?
Yes. Oh, I really liked it a lot.
Yeah,
I had read the book. There are parts that are different than the book, of course. There always is.
sure.
But I really loved what they did with it. I thought it was great. The changes that they made sense for the movie. Um, Yeah, I thought it was awesome. I thought they did a great job conveying the message that Percival Everett was going for.
Mm-hmm.
The changes that they made were very minor,
Sure.
um, but I don't know. I just really, really liked it. I thought it
I did
was
too.
very, very good. You did too?
I did. Yeah.
Good.
I thought that in a lot of ways it's like the most accurate representation of race relations in this country. And there
Mm.
were a couple moments where I was like, I said out loud, I'm like, that is so damn good. Like, that is perfect.
Do
Um,
you have those written down? Because I am curious what made you say those are so damn good.
I know one off the top of my head.
Okay.
I don't remember what the other one was, but
Okay.
we'll get to there later.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I really, really liked it. I have not read the book, and I am kind of curious as to what they changed.
Hmm.
Not that that makes a whole lot of difference, but I'm curious.
Yeah,
Uh,
I can share some of that with you
sure,
if you're
yeah,
interested.
go ahead.
I won't spend a lot of time on it, but I do think it's interesting the choices that were made.
Hmm.
So Percival Everett says, "I'm too married." Like I listened to a couple interviews with him because I adore him, as we know. And so I listened to a couple interviews with him, and he was talking about the fact that he said, "This is my own personal creation, and I created it the way I created it as a novel.
Mm,
I feel too attached to every part of this novel to be the person to write the screenplay."
sure.
But he likes it. I mean, he liked it. He said he thought that, oh my goodness, what's his name? Please tell me the director's name. I'm having a
Oh, I
moment.
don't know. I should have looked that up.
Oh no. He, oh my goodness.
It,
It's like so in the front of my brain and I can't think of it. Okay, you look it up while I'm talking.
it is Cord Jefferson.
Cord Jefferson. So he also wrote the screenplay,
Okay.
directed and did the screenplay for this movie. So he worked with Cord. He was on the set periodically, not all the time. He's like, I know this has to be its own form of art. So,
Hmm.
I understand that the changes that were made to the story were ones that made more sense in the visual storytelling.
Yeah,
So he said, I just didn't feel like I wanted to cut anything because it's what I know and what I love and it's my creation. So I wanted someone else to do it, but he was very happy with what he did.
all
Okay,
right.
so a couple of differences. His sister um, worked at a like kind of like a Planned Parenthood sort of place. It was
Mm,
I don't know if it was super obvious, but there was wording on the wall when you see the clinic that she was working at that this is a like a reproductive clinic,
yeah.
and she performed abortions
Mm.
there. And so in the book, she died by someone like a crazy radical person shooting her outside of her
Oh,
clinic.
snap.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that was very different. That was
Mm.
a very big difference. Also, but she also died at the beginning of the book, just like she died at the beginning of the movie.
Hmm.
Um, and in both cases, the deaths were very sudden.
Yeah,
So in that way, it was the same. It was unexpected. We had just enough time to get to know her and like her, and then um, yeah, and then just the sudden unexpected death and what happens there.
sure.
So that was one big change. Um, Another big change is the girlfriend who lived across the street. I
Coraline? Is that her name?
think she was still married, if I'm
Oh.
remembering right. I think she was still married in the book, and so they didn't stay together very long. But
Oh.
now I'm kind of second guessing that, but I do feel like that was the case. But the reason I'm second guessing it is because I also listened to a podcast yesterday. Like I have a regular podcast that's a book podcast that I listen to all the time, and they just happened to be doing this book this week.
Oh.
What? So they watched the movie, they call it Popcorn in the Pages, and they watched the movie and they read the book and then they were talking about it. And then but they were talking about it like the girlfriend was in this book the whole way through, but I really didn't remember it that way. So
Hmm.
it is possible I'm misremembering that. But what was in my mind was that very early on, he found out that she was still married. And so that was the end of that.
Oh.
I felt like that relationship was much more involved. Either way, it felt more involved in the movie than it did in the book.
Yeah.
The biggest difference is that 70 pages of this book
Oh.
is the book,
Yeah.
right? So first of all, the way they did that was absolutely fantastic.
Oh, in the movie. Yeah.
I loved that he was interacting with those characters and the dialogue, the way the dialogue was written, where
Yep.
he's talking with them, but he's also working on his own. You can kind of see the mix of the two things. It was fabulous. I loved it. But in the book, it's almost like a third of the book
Yeah.
is the book within a book. And it was brutal to read because it was every stereotype. It was like, uh, yeah, it was just like one stereotype piled on the next one. And every tragic thing you could possibly think of happens
Sure.
in it.
Yep.
And, lots of violence. And I mean, it was dark. It was dark. What I liked about that was that you really got a good feel for what he did,
Yeah.
like how extreme it was. Here you get a little bit of it, but when you're reading that much of the novel being the book itself in his words, wow, that was pretty cool. But I absolutely loved the way they did that in the movie.
Yeah.
I thought it was so great. So those were kind of the biggest changes to it. The other big plot points all really stayed the same,
Sure.
or very close to the same. But I just nobody in this movie, nobody is free from critique. Like
Yeah.
no people group is free from critique. I mean, he's critiquing a Black culture, he's critiquing white culture, he's critiquing people who are super liberal, and he's critiquing people who are really conservative. Like
Yes.
no one escapes
That's right.
this. And it also made me feel like the next book, or not the next book, this book is almost 20 years old.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, it's an older book. But his next book, which take it back again, it was not his next book. So
Jerry.
he knows I'm super jazzy today because
Mhm.
I'm like just left therapy, feeling great. And but the last book that I read of his, which is the only other book of his that I read,
Mhm.
was the retelling of Huck Finn from Jim's perspective. And I'm like, it made me sit and think, like, did I just fall for, this, because everything is so subversive and there's so many like
Oh.
so satirical, and it's like it just makes me question, like, how did I receive that book? Was he trying
Mm.
to, maybe like second guess everything that I was
Sure.
thinking about it? I still think it's an absolutely phenomenal book. It was my favorite from last year, but it just makes you go like, oh no, am I one of those people who's like reading exploitative work? I don't think that that's the case, but it did make
No.
me think just watching this movie. It did make me think.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I
Yeah.
mean, this is like the most cynical movie I've seen in a long time.
Very.
I was kind of shocked, like, because, like you were saying, it's critiquing everybody.
Everybody.
I mean, obviously, like, it's, mostly a slight against white folks, which I think is probably, well, not probably, I think it's fair.
Mhm.
Because, you're either the, like, I'm not going to make, well, I guess I can make sweeping generalizations about my own people, I guess.
Sure.
So it's just like in this movie, it's like the white dudes are like, they're gross. They're either all about money or they're like the two judges in the book award contest. And they're just like, I like it. It's so different. And it's just like
Yeah.
hillbilly guy who's like, yeah, I guess it's important to like listen to black people.
Yes.
And so like I really liked that. And then even like the woman, the white woman that was in that, like, oh, that is like pitch perfect of like a white liberal with so much white guilt. It's insane. Where they're
It's
just
like me. It's like me. I was like, "Oh, this is hitting kinda close to home. Oh, no.
it's it's
Don't
so
come after me, Percival."
well. I think it's exaggerated, but
Yes,
it's but it really does like do a really great job representing like someone who's trying so hard, like overcorrecting so hard that they actually end up coming like full circle around to kind of being racist.
uh-huh.
It's it's crazy. And
Yes.
that moment that I was saying where it actually made me say like talk to a TV was when they decide to give the award to fuck.
Mhm.
And and I thought it was really, really smart where like the two black people are on one side of the table and they say, nope, we don't want this book. It's offensive and gross and it shouldn't win an award. And the three white people are on the other side of the table and they say, I think we should do this should win the award. And the line that really stuck out to me, and I'm sure you know what I'm gonna say, is when that lady says, "Well, I think we just need to do it because it's important to listen to black voices right now." And I'm like, "What are
Yes.
you doing? Like, do you even understand what you're saying right now? Because
The irony.
you're not listening to black voices right now." It's
No.
that was like brilliant. I'm like
Yes.
that is absolutely perfect. Like that liberal ideal of like what they think racial reconciliation looks like, but
Mhm.
actually they're just falling right back into it. I thought was beautiful, and I thought that was
Yeah.
very very well done.
Yeah, I like that too. I think too, um, I feel like there isn't as much. I think it's interesting that there's less about like the white racist, like overtly racist
Yeah,
person, and it's more toward this group of people who thinks they're doing the right thing. They're trying to do the right thing. But I think that's not something that's addressed very often. I mean,
yeah,
I feel like when we're talking about things like that, it's like, well, it's those people who are out there with their pitchforks.
right.
And but then it is like, but this is harmful in a different way. It's still harmful.
Hmm.
It's just from the opposite direction. I don't
Sure.
know. I just like that he doesn't spare that. He's like, he calls it out.
Yeah.
I like.
Yeah, I think that's important too because I think maybe like the culture focuses on uh oh, black people getting killed by police. That's something that they
Mhm,
bring up a couple times in this movie, and it's like, yeah, that is a big issue. Like
mhm,
that obviously is a bigger issue than what this movie is like kind of commenting on,
mhm,
but it kind of goes to demonstrate how these like societal things, structures are still in place where even people who think they're doing the right thing are actually still doing that and still
mhm,
keeping black people out of these spaces, or I guess just minorities in general out of these spaces.
mhm,
Um, it's also just, well, I'm not going to say equally doing the same amount of harm because one of them is
mhm.
murder,
Sure.
but like denying access to people to things based on their race is not a dead concept, and it's
Mhm.
still very much a thing, but it just has a different face, and it's no longer the neo-Nazis walking in, what was it, Charleston, with their tiki torches and neo-Nazi
Mhm,
flags. It's like
mhm,
they're way more subtle now,
mhm.
obviously.
Well, sometimes.
Sometimes, but
Sometimes, but sometimes it's pretty overt, but yes, you're right. Yes.
they've gotten more sneaky with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think um, I found what I enjoyed about that is one of the things I enjoyed about that was also the fact that we're talking about book awards. Like it
Yeah.
was very much a commentary on how those awards work and how they decide. That is a big conversation that happens in the book world, is like we've got this group of 4 people who are deciding this award that so much hangs on. Everyone reads them. It's such a big deal. But the other thing I thought was interesting was when they were sitting at the table and Jeffrey Wright and Issa Rae are having that conversation. And he is like asking her these questions. And he has not said that he is staggerly. Um, and but she is saying, well, but she justifies her book, and he's just so mad about it, but he can't really say that
Why?
he is this person.
Yeah.
But she felt very much justified in what she was doing and whatever. And so and one of the podcasts I was listening to was saying that this is very much like a play on the Oprah Book Club, and that
Sure.
we're exploiting tragic the tragic situations, enslavement, like that whole thing when they're on the movie set, and there's
Oh,
the guy, you see
yeah.
them walking off with the plantation background, and there's the guy and he does the
It's just,
peace sign.
yeah.
It's like, here
Yeah.
I am, this is what we do. We capitalize on tragic and sad situations
Sure.
from the past, and not really. You hear a lot about now. You hear a lot about, why isn't there, and maybe this is just something I hear about because I listen to a lot of book podcasts. Where are the books about Black joy?
Mm.
Where are books that are just talking about the day-to-day life? And that was one of the things that I did like about this was, you know, some of the best parts of this movie are about family
Hmm.
and just the day-to-day stuff that that every family goes through. And we're talking about Alzheimer's and just different issues like that, family dynamics.
Hmm.
um, it just doesn't feel like there's very much of that in film. That isn't very much much, or there aren't very many movies, I guess. I mean, because there are some movies, there just aren't that many
Sure.
that aren't focused on something like that. I thought it was refreshing. I liked it. I thought
Hmm.
I really loved the family stuff. I
Yeah.
thought that was really really powerful. I but the whole Issa Rae thing, I struggled with that because I was like, well, but she's kind of doing the same thing. But I can't remember what she said her argument was, like why she felt like, well, I'm justified in this because she was
She did a bunch of research, and she
yeah.
was like, some of the things I took were directly from interviews.
Mm, yeah.
Um, which, I mean, that just kind of it seemed a little bit like that was just a justification that she needed to say for herself in order to sleep at night, essentially.
Yeah.
Um, that whole character, like, and I'm sorry to maybe bring this man up, but it's like it reminds me a lot of like Jay-Z or like
Mm,
other like big black like millionaires, businessmen who like
mhm,
they maybe came from these like underprivileged areas, but then they like grew to such huge heights and then did absolutely nothing to help the
mm,
places where they're from, and they just hoard and accumulate and just focus on the market, focus on the money. And it's like, yes, Jay-Z's like super rich and he works with Apple Music on the halftime show at the Super Bowl, and he has
mhm,
all of his hands in so many pockets, but like you go back to like Brooklyn or wherever he's from and it's just like it's still a shithole. And it's like,
mm,
well, he did nothing. And
yeah.
like that's the one thing, and sorry to bring up and going on so many tangents, but like that's one thing I really
There's a lot
like.
to talk about.
There is. That's one thing I really like about Kendrick, where like on like this most recent like thing that he's been on, where he's like really focusing on like really highlighting the like great parts of Compton and like really trying to like not like gentrify the city, but actually like build it up because there's a lot of like gang violence and stuff, and he's trying to like unite them, and it's like stop. We need to stop fighting with each other. We need to focus on the actual problem that's keeping us down.
Mhm,
And like he does like once a year he does like this huge food drive in Compton, and like a big like barbecue where everybody can come in and eat for free. And I'm like, that's just really nice. Like
Mhm.
that's the like actual way that we should be looking at this, where it's like helping our communities, not forgetting where we're from.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I think the Issa Rae was like kind of a stand-in for these huge guys that came up and then did absolutely nothing. And
Mhm.
they have justifications. I'm sure Kanye, well, before recent, I'm sure Kanye had some like stuff. Well, actually, that's a bad example because he was like born rich or whatever. But
Yeah.
um, like Dr. Dre or something, where he got super rich and then he lost all of his money in a divorce or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, and it's just like I just loved that. I loved that like dripping cynicism. I'm like, it's so brutal too. Where I'm
It
like,
is.
it really doesn't hold anything back. And that's maybe one thing that I don't quite like about this movie is that it got a little bit overindulgent in the end with the
Mm.
meta aspect.
Yes, yes. That was also different than the book.
Okay.
The ending was different. I
I,
forgot to mention that. So the book ended, it was like something like, "Look, Mom, I'm on TV."
oh.
And that was the end of it. Like we never got any of that postscript sort of stuff. So where it goes black and then it
Mm,
comes back, in the book it was more like it goes black and
yeah.
there's nothing else. So
That I don't know. I don't really like that ending either. I don't really know how you end a movie like this, but I just
mhm,
know that like going through all of the ending, all the possible endings, and then like I felt like the ending that like the producer liked, where he's like, oh, he get like all the cops show up and then he gets shot. It's just like you made that point before,
mhm,
where it's like all
mhm,
these guys care about is misery porn and stuff.
mhm,
I
mhm,
didn't feel like that was like necessarily needed. And
mhm,
then I don't know. I did like the final shot where they're like driving off of this set, and then the like guy who's playing a slave just like says
mhm.
like what up. I like that. Like that was like a really kind of poignant moment, but like I just felt like everything before that was like, oh, you're going a little bit too far.
Yeah.
You had a great thing going, and then you kind of like almost making fun of the concept of it being a movie in the first place. And I'm
Mhm.
like, well, don't do that. Like, you can have like meta moments, but when it's like straight up like looking at the camera and being like, oh, we need to, like, white people are super dumb for liking the misery porn. It's like, well, you've already done that. Not that I
Yeah.
disagree, but it's just like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I just felt like it. I mean, you're right. Maybe it is reductive because we've already worked through that, but
Yeah.
there was something about tying it to the movie itself that I liked because they're doing the thing that he's been talking about,
Yeah.
right? They're doing the thing.
Yeah.
And you've got this director who's like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I get that it's meta and it feels a little over the top, but for me, I was like, I appreciated the little like, this is how we're closing it. It like it doesn't stop. It
Yeah.
doesn't. We're still doing that. Um,
Yeah.
but yes. So Percival Everett says this character is a lot like me.
Sure.
And when I was saying to you last week that he was so serious and so like you can tell he's an absolute freaking genius.
Sure.
You know, you can tell. And Jeffrey Wright was so spot on,
He's great.
amazing in that role. And that's the first thing I've ever seen him in. I've never seen him in anything else before. But he like having seen interviews with him, and then to see Jeffrey Wright play this character. Now I don't know that he was trying to impersonate Percival Everett, but there's no question that there was a part of what he was doing that reminded me so much of him.
Oh, yeah.
Like the droll, the like very serious, very academic. Even in the so like in the book, he wrote philosophical things. We never really
Mm,
heard what he wrote in the movie. But
sure.
in the book, it was like taking literature and when they were reading some of the stuff that he wrote, it was so dense. It was like, oh my gosh, no wonder nobody wants to read this. It was just the driest, most
Yeah.
way over my head situation ever. And so I was like, well, of course this guy isn't getting published. I mean, the stuff is it's academic, it's boring, you know. Um, So I kind of liked the fact that he's like, yeah, there's an awful lot of me in this character. He said
True.
it's not me, but there is a lot of me in this character, and I could definitely see a resemblance in the way that Jeffrey Wright acted this particular part, and it's probably because it's in his voice. You can't help but,
Yeah.
when you're writing, sometimes your own voice comes through. Um, but man, yeah, I watched the movie before I listened to that interview with him,
Mm.
and I was like, oh yeah, I I can definitely see a resemblance between him and this character. Um, yeah, Sterling K. Brown. Oh, he is such a good guy. I like him so much. I mean,
Yeah.
I thought he was great in this movie. I know he was nominated for a bunch of awards as well.
For this movie?
Yeah, for this movie.
Oh, okay.
No, it wasn't like a super meaty part as far as
Mm.
like there wasn't what you usually think of when you're looking at an award worthy performance where like people are crying and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
It was very subtle, but I really liked it. I thought that he did um, a lovely job. Their
Yeah.
family dynamics were just so complicated. Um, the whole, you're just like dad. Dad always liked you better, and you're a genius. But both of his siblings are doctors.
Yeah.
Like, they're obviously not stupid if they're both physicians, right? But he's the one that they're all like, oh yeah, but you're the genius. Um, and
I don't know.
he's
The mom at the end, remember where she's like, "You're a genius," but then she thinks that he's Cliff.
oh, I didn't think that was it.
Really?
Yeah, no,
That's what it was.
I thought it was they were talking, and she was talking about. Um, I thought she was talking about how he was always the dad's favorite, and that you're a lot like your dad, and that your dad was a genius, and he was like emotionally distant or whatever it was
Hmm.
the term at the end. And she said something like, "You're a genius too." She was calling him a genius, but I thought she was calling um, the Jeffrey Wright character a genius too,
No,
and
she
that's
was calling
what she was
Cliff.
insinuating.
It
Oh,
was the conversation was like, yeah, you're emotionally distant. Your dad was a genius. I think that was prompted because Jeffrey Wright asks, "Did you know that he was having an affair?" She's
yeah.
like, "Yeah, he hit his tracks, but not well enough. He was a genius, kind of like you." And then Jeffrey Wright said, I don't feel like a genius right now." And she's like, "Well, you always are so hard on yourself, Cliffy." And so, like,
Oh,
so that's like, she, like, straight
at
up,
the very end, she flipped over, and
well,
because
I
it's
assumed
that
that, like, she thought that he was Cliff the whole time.
but she
That's what
was
I
talking about
assumed.
it in third person. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But I think the that even if she did think she was talking to him, I mean, Jeffrey Wright was a genius. I can't
Oh,
remember
yeah.
his name. What was his character's name? I don't remember now. But
Monk, because he's named
that's
after
right,
Thelonious
Thelonious.
Monk.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Um, yeah. Uh, and maybe that wasn't conveyed as much in the movie versus the book, but when you're reading what he's writing, he is obviously a genius.
Oh,
Like,
sure.
if you had read the academic stuff he was writing, you'd be like, oh gosh, wow, that's amazing. But so I guess maybe I was taking some of what I got from the book.
Mm,
Maybe I was taking that and bringing it to the film. But yeah, that was just a very complicated thing,
yeah.
watching those siblings trying to work through some of that, and then also dealing with, like, I mean, we're going through this in our family. We have someone in our family who has Alzheimer's, and
Oh, yeah.
the who's responsible for taking care of this person and like making sure they're getting what they need. And some people are able to just traipse around and do what they want, and other people are feeling like they're carrying the majority of the load. And that's a real thing. And yeah, I mean, I just, there were so many things like that where it was, this is just everyday life stuff that, you know, ruins family relationships, and like these sorts of things. When people get sick, it's hard on a family.
Hmm.
And then you have this tragic death of the sister. Like, you're pushing this family to its breaking point.
Yeah. And
um
Cliff's going through it too.
Cliff, the dad.
No, the Sterling K. Brown. His name's
You said,
Cliff.
I know, but you said Cliffy in that last. Oh,
Yeah,
because
because you thought that she was talking to Cliff, the other son.
oh, oh my gosh, I thought you were saying that he was talking to the dad.
No.
I'm so confused right now.
No, that whole conversation was she thought that she was talking to Cliff, not Monk.
I got it. I thought you thought that she was talking to the dad.
No.
Okay, got it. Yeah, yeah, he was working through it for sure. That character was really going through it.
Yeah.
Had his own stuff happening.
It's like a perfect storm. Everything was going wrong all at once.
Yeah. Yes. Um, so this is what I like about one of the things I really liked about this movie that is similar to James,
Okay.
his newest book, is that it is a serious topic. He's taking on really serious themes. And you think if we were talking about James and we're talking about the story of Huck Finn and James, and this man is enslaved and he goes through some really hard stuff. It is a funny book.
Oh, sure.
And you're like, how? He's so witty. He's so witty. And it's like, it feels weird to say, this book about this enslaved man is funny. But there's so much irony, and he does it in this too. And the satire is just so twisty that can't help but laugh at it sometimes, because it's like, this is just so absurd.
Yes.
It is so absurd, but it is also really funny because I can see the things you're talking about. You can laugh at yourself and also feel like, oh, he's totally right about that. But also, this is really funny. I don't know. I think that takes a real special gift to be able to balance humor
Mm-hmm.
and really deep themes and satire. Like, I heard somebody talking about it and they're like, oh, they were taking it as serious. I'm like,
Oh.
friends. This is satire. Satire's over the top.
Yes.
That's what this is. It's over the top. It's to make a point.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't understand that that's what this is, and they're like, this doesn't even make any sense. It's like, okay, well, you're not looking at it through the lens that it was intended.
Sure.
This is making a point at a very exaggerated sort of scale. But that's what makes it so powerful, I think. I don't know. Just like it so much, I don't even know what I'm saying right now.
No, yeah, I think that's like dead on the money. It is like this really interesting tone. It's almost it reminds me a lot of Spike Lee. Spike Lee does that a lot, especially in like Do the Right Thing. That movie is very politically charged. Like, people still debate what the end of that movie means. But it is absolutely hilarious the entire way through, except for the end when it is not funny anymore. But man, when Giancarlo Esposito is running around with those funny glasses and he gets so pissed when the guy scuffs his new Jordans and he gets the whole gang together to confront him, it is absolutely hilarious. And so, yeah, I don't know. It reminded me a lot of that, and I love Spike Lee, so I was like, yeah, I was down for that tone.
Yeah,
And it is really funny, this movie.
it is.
There was a couple times where I was like really laughing. I'm like, I was not expecting to really laugh this much in
Yeah,
this movie.
yeah, I agree. I think he's just got a really good sense of humor,
Mm-hmm.
and to be able to weave that into such serious themes is fun.
Yeah.
I admire him so much. He's just so smart, and he's just such a good writer. His wife is a writer too, which I love that. Like,
Mm.
two of these amazingly intelligent, uh, scholarly writers in the same, and she is also very. Um, she's not writing like genre. She's not writing a romance. She's writing deep stuff, like really good literary stuff. And
Nice.
I love that they both are in this. And it makes me wonder too. Like, I don't know what she's like. I've never seen an interview with her before. But I'm like, I wonder if they're both super serious like that. They have one child, I think is right. And it's like, is their house like super serious? Do they sit around and talk about, philosophy and, literature? And I mean, it's just so, I just
Maybe.
like think about that. I just like two such super smart people. I just think it's fun. I like to think about it. Um, yes. I took some notes, so I just wanted to look through really quick and see if I'm missing anything. Oh, I like that there was a quote, "Never underestimate how stupid everyone is." I like that.
Yeah, that's like almost the running thing of the movie. And
Yeah.
like I think there's like another line where he's like this the stupider I act, the more rich I get or something like that. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that's really funny.
Yeah. The other one is, the other I made a note when he was on the phone with the publisher,
Mm,
and he got on and was speaking with his voice, and they didn't think they were talking to him, to Staggerly, and so, like, he switched it up, and then they were like, "Oh, there you are," some of that stuff is just, like, it's so in your face,
yeah.
um, but I really liked it.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
that reminded me again of Spike Lee of Black Klansman. Where
Oh, yeah.
like
It's a good movie.
Ron Stallworth is like having to put on the voice to talk to David Duke. And again, it's over the top. And I
Forgot
and
about
like
that.
I think the real Ron Stallworth was like, I didn't put on a voice. Which
Mm,
if you're like trying to like get that point across, where it's like
yeah.
he couldn't tell that Ron Stallworth was black when he was talking to him and he was just using his regular voice. That
Mhm.
that almost feels like, well, you probably might have should have just done that because that almost illustrates the point a little better. But it's to add that like satire and you're poking fun at David Duke, and I think that's okay. And in this movie they're poking fun at like the white execs that are like basically
Mhm.
faking like support in order to make a bunch of money because that's like every single conversation that they have relating to this book, it's always we're gonna sell so many books, it's gonna win so many awards.
Mhm.
They're just like, I like the book, it's great, but it's also going to make a lot of money, and isn't
Mm,
that nice?
yeah.
I'm like,
Well, and
oh,
that also is just a huge statement about the publishing industry.
oh sure,
We're willing to put out a bunch of junk if people are gonna buy it,
right.
There's some real bad stuff out there that has, not to be judgmental, because there's an audience for everything.
Hmm.
But, so much of what he's saying here is a real statement on, the publishing industry overall and the pandering that happens. And he acknowledges, like in this interview, acknowledged, the publishing industry is getting better. We
Sure.
are getting better about making sure that there's more representation in publishing, that, um, more Black authors are getting publishing deals. And it's not just about, what'd you call it? Black exploitation or
Sure.
something. What did you call that? I can't remember
Black
the word.
exploitation, that's I think it might be specifically like a film genre, but I think
Oh,
it's fine.
okay. Yeah, I think, we are getting more stories about, in fact, I'm reading one right now called, Harlem Rhapsody,
Hmm.
and it's historical fiction, and it's about W.E.B. Du Bois and his, mistress, and her working for the NAACP magazine, and, you know, people that have been lost to history, and they're written by Black voices.
Sure.
Like, that would not have been, as commonplace as it is now. Certainly, they are not, you know, it's better than it was. It's still not great, but it is better than it was. And I do feel like publishing industry is doing a better job of not just picking the most tragic of stories. And so I do feel like maybe they are a little bit ahead of film at this point when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, so, he acknowledged it's better than it was, but it's still not good. And um, so, that's interesting to know too, in the time since this book was originally written. I also think it's interesting that it took so long to make this book into a film. And I'm thinking, this came out after the pandemic, so, was there something? I mean, I know George Floyd was happening at that time. There was a lot of the books, The White Fragility and The Stamped from the beginning. And there was,
The
at
black
the same
squares.
time, yes, Black Squares, all of that was happening. And so was this in response to that?
Most definitely, yeah.
That Cord Jefferson saw that and was like, oh, we need to talk about this. This is like a thing.
Mhm.
Um, but that, he had written this first, so long ago.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. I like her memorial service
Oh, yeah, that
where
was really
there's
good.
something about Idris Elba. I can't remember.
If I died suddenly, I hope it was under the heaving thrusts of Idris Elba, or if my like
That's
something if my
I had
morals are wrong, then maybe under the heaving thrusts of Russell Crowe, I think was the other one.
my gosh. I mean, that was so funny. I really enjoyed that a lot. And that the neighbor comes by. Are you spreading somebody's ashes out here?
Do you have a
You're
permit
just,
for that?
oh gosh, so good. So good. I love that. Um, I thought that was funny. I also liked the part. So I think it's his agent, and he
Oh,
says, this is a quote. I paused the movie so I could get it just right. Nobody in Hollywood reads. They get their assistants to read things and then they summarize them. The whole town runs on book reports.
yep. Yep.
I really thought that was great.
I forget what
Yeah.
they call that.
What they call it?
Yeah, there's like a specific word where like the Issa Rae character, like what she
Mhm.
did, if it was like first assistance. I don't think it's called a log line. There's something specific where it's like those assistants will write like one page synopsis of the scripts and send that to like the executive producers who like, yes, yes, no, 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 no. Like
Oh,
that's how that
interesting.
works. Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting. Okay. I had never heard that before.
Yeah.
I got a kick out of the name of the movie that they were working on with starring Ryan Reynolds, Plantation Annihilation.
Oh,
But that was especially, I mean, I don't know if you caught that, how on the nose that was, because I don't know if you know the whole Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively situation, but they were married on a plantation.
oh, I was not aware of that, but that makes sense.
They were married on a plantation, and there has since been a lot of like, you know, you shouldn't be doing that. Like, that's a bad thing.
It is a
And so
bad thing.
they came out and apologized, and they're like, "We didn't know, and we're so sorry," and whatever. So I thought it was especially funny that the Plantation and Annihilation starred Ryan Reynolds. I'm like, I see what you're doing
That's
right there.
yeah.
That's very on the nose.
That's good. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, very on the nose. I enjoyed that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just reading through my notes trying to see because I have so many notes. And
Well, that's probably good.
yeah, I just really just there's so many things. Like, I know if I watched this again, I would come away with 50 more things and even having read the book and knowing kind of where it's going, to see it on the screen, it is a very different experience. Um, but I enjoyed it just as much. Like, knowing where it was going did not change my enjoyment of it. I
Hmm.
wasn't sure if I would, but it stayed true to the um, feel.
Sure.
It felt the same. Like, there's a reason that this won the Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay
Sure.
and won a gazillion awards for, let me see. It won, I'm going to go through the awards. How about that?
All right.
All right. It won the AFI Movie of the Year
Oh,
that year. So that's Barbie year. That's
20.
the Barbenheimer.
Oh, was that last
Right?
year?
Yeah.
Well, no, that would have been.
Right?
Was that the Everything Everywhere year?
No, that was the year before that.
Oh, okay.
Oppenheimer was last year. The year before that was Everything Everywhere.
Okay.
The year before that was Coda. I'm studying my Oscar-winning movies. I quiz myself on them every night. I'm getting really good at them.
Okay.
So Oppenheimer was last year.
Mhm.
So it was up against some like big competition. Everybody was like, Oppenheimer's going to take everything. I mean, that was kind of the assumption going into the Oscars that year.
And it kind of
It,
did.
it did. It did. But it did win at AFI. It won Movie of the Year. I
As it
won
should.
Best Adapted Screenplay for Cord Jefferson at the Academy Awards.
Oh,
So
okay.
it did win an Oscar on that. Hold on a second. I'm gonna uh, they won. I think he won Best Adapted. I'm going to give you the list because he won a bunch. Best
Okay.
Adapted Screenplay at the BAFTAs, at
Oh,
the
okay.
Critics' Choice,
Mm-hmm.
at the Independent Spirit Award. Um, there were so many more. Those were ones that were just the big ones that I recognized. But seriously, he won so many, for the adapted screenplay, and that was very deserved. He really did a beautiful job adapting that.
Mm-hmm.
It was his directorial debut, which I also
Oh,
didn't know. I thought that was really interesting.
yeah.
And there were also a lot of nominations for Sterling K. Brown and Jeffrey Wright at some of the awards shows, kind of some of the smaller ones. They were nominated in all
Sure.
of them. They just didn't win
Yeah.
at any of the bigger ones. So the other
Yeah.
thing I wanted to bring up, unless you had something else on that.
No, I was just gonna say that this movie is significantly better than Oppenheimer, and
Mm.
uh, like Robert Downey Jr. did not deserve that win over Jeffrey Wright if they were nominated in the same category. I don't even think.
Well,
Well,
no,
that would
because
have been that he was
sup-
supporting.
mm-hmm. So that would have been against Sterling K. Brown.
Yeah, I don't care about Robert Downey Jr. I think
That was one of those legacy awards, I think. It was less
probably.
about that performance and more about a career. Kind of like,
Yeah,
people talking about the Jamie Lee Curtis win the
yeah.
year
That
before
that
he won.
also was messed up.
Yeah, I think,
And I like Jamie Lee Curtis a lot, but
yeah, I do
come
too.
on.
I do too. But there are definitely times throughout Oscars history where you're like, Leonardo DiCaprio is another great
Oh,
example.
with the
Like,
Revenant.
he deserved to win with some other things, but Revenant, I don't know. Was that his best performance ever? I don't know. I've
People
never
like
seen
that
it.
movie. I don't know.
I know that, but yeah, and I haven't seen it. So I can't speak from my own personal experience, but I have heard a lot of people say, there were other movies he should have won for before that. It
Oh,
almost felt
sure.
like one of those things where it was like, oh, well, we have to give it to him at some point, right?
Yeah.
So, um, anyway, yeah. So the other thing I wanted to say was the significance of the name Stag Arlee. Do you know
Hmm.
anything about the history of that?
No, is that like an Alan Smithy thing where
It is.
people? Okay.
But what is an Alan Smithy thing? Please tell me what that is.
Alan Smithy was a very well. I don't think it's used anymore. I think it was a very popular name, fake name that directors or writers would use when they were ashamed of the movie that they made. So like a lot of times like this was in kind of underground, maybe straight to video stuff. Like if you had like an established director that shot one of those, then they would credit it as Alan Smithy so that you wouldn't know that it was this other person that did it.
See, so it's like an anonymous. It's like a pen name.
Yeah, it was like this thing that like a bunch of people used though. Like everybody used Alan Smithy when they didn't want to be attached to something.
So it would be like John Doe,
Oh, okay.
where you hear, you know, anytime you're using an alias for a dead body, it's a John Doe
Yeah.
or a Jane Doe, something like that, where it's like, this is just the name that you use for that. Is that
Hmm.
what you're saying? Something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Something like that.
Okay, not exactly the same,
Okay.
but so the reason I know about it is because I watched the movie Shag. That is from the 1980s. It has Bridget Fonda in it, which is Jane Fonda's daughter. No, Peter Fonda's daughter, um, Bridget Fonda, and Annabeth Gish, who's from Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Hey,
She's in
oh.
neck of the woods, and she was also in Mystic Pizza with Julia Roberts. Um, okay, so it's a story of a group of girls back in the 60s, I'm thinking, who go to the coast and they're doing shag. It's a kind of dance.
Okay.
Um, and the song that they use in the final scene, that's my favorite scene ever, and I want to learn the dance, is to the song Stagger Lee
Hmm.
by Lloyd Price. So
Okay.
I remembered it from that because I was like, oh my gosh, I just listened to that song last week because it's on my favorites list on Spotify because
Oh,
I love that song. But it's an old 60s song. You'll have to listen to it. Anyway, um, so that is the best known version, is what they say. I don't know. It topped the US Hot 100 in February of 1959.
oh, okay.
So it was a it was a big song. And that's how I knew it. So when I saw the name, I was like, huh, that's interesting. why they would use that name. I know the song, and I know that the song tells a story. So when you listen to it, it does have a story to it. So according to Screen Rant, this is my source.
Okay.
Stagger Lee was a 20th century black pimp who earned
Mm.
white people's respect by developing a tough persona.
Oh, okay.
Monk's Stagger Lee alias is a direct reference to, there's another song from 1923 called Stack O Lee Blues
Mm.
by Fred Waring, which is based on the murder of Billy Lyons by Stag Arley Shelton.
Hmm.
So he murders somebody, and it's kind of like, my understanding as I'm reading the history of it is that it's part of like black folklore,
Okay.
black American folklore, and that this character is someone, again, this is just from my reading, would be a name that people would recognize.
Sure.
Um, probably more so in the black community, unless you've seen the movie Shag and you know the song Stagger Lee by Lloyd Price, which I do. Anyway,
Sure.
I just think it's interesting. It's like this guy, you know, this guy is trying to earn respect by developing a tough persona. That's like a quote from that website. It is very on the nose there again, where if you knew that history, that and that folklore,
Hmm.
you would know what he's doing with the name of that particular character, and that no one else knew. Everybody's kind of oblivious to it. I
Yeah.
don't. I thought
It,
that was interesting.
it's almost like the generation before's Dolomite. Where like in the
Mm.
90s and 2000s, like a lot of like rappers would say, I'm well, what's the Snoop Dogg lyric? It's clocking a grip and slapping hoes like my name is Dolomite or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, it's interesting that that's just like one generation behind. That's like their reference point is like this Stagger Lee character. But then
Yeah.
Dolomite came out in the 70s, and now that's kind of taken over the cultural consciousness. That's kind of
Mm-hmm.
interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too. I just knew the song, but I did not know the you know what that character represented. I had listened to the I'm thinking through the song when I mean I can sing you every word of that song, but I'm not going to do it.
Okay.
I'm not going to do it. I literally listen to it over and over in my car. You guys, when I'm telling you that I know this song and I love it, I really, really do. If I'm in a mood, that's my song.
Hmm.
So I just think it is really interesting, and I also think it's interesting that 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 the original that personal Percival Everett chose that name.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think. He's an older gentleman, but and so maybe it would be more, you know, culturally relevant for his generation,
Maybe.
maybe. But when you're watching the movie now and you're like, maybe it's not as well known
I don't think so.
anywhere, you know, um, that no one would have caught on to the fact that this is the name that he's choosing to use.
I mean, Screen
And,
Rant had
and
to write an article explaining it. I don't think people really knew
so
it.
it was all over. Like I was just trying to find something that was even barely recognizable
Oh,
as a source. You know what
sure.
I mean? And everybody had different things. So I thought I just finally need to just decide on one of them. But you can tell that it is folklore because all the versions of it are a little bit different,
Yeah.
but they all are that same idea. Like this guy was, you know, a bad dude, I guess, or whatever. And, but the white community respected him
Sure.
for whatever reason that might be. Anyway, that's that. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if I have anything else. Do you have anything else about this one?
Um,
How are you
uh,
feeling? Something specific you want to chat about?
I feel like we talked about it. I will say it's interesting, I think, because you're coming from this, like, through the perspective of someone that's like really into books and knows all of the awards stuff, and I don't know much about that. I know more about the movies, and I
Hmm.
feel like this movie does obviously play a lot to the book community, but like I thought there was like this one shot that I thought was like really really brilliant, where it's like him contemplating the idea of like writing this, or
Hmm.
maybe not even contemplating, but just like where he's noticing that like these are the only black stories being told. Where he's like watching TV, and it might have even been like this is like Black History Month marathon, and they're showing like actual footage from like movies like starring black people, where it was like I caught like the death scene from Boys in the Hood, and
Mm.
I think there might have been 12 Years a Slave or something. Um, but I was just like, that's really, really smart. Where it's like, this is Black History Month. We're celebrating Black history. And it's the two examples that I caught for sure were slaves and
Mm.
when like not the main character, but a side character gets killed by gang violence and Boys in the Hood. Like
Yeah.
that's really, really brilliant.
On again on the nose
Yeah.
when you're looking at. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think that's funny. Well, and I do think I'm thinking about that now, and I'm thinking about Black History Month. I'm trying to think of movies where, I mean, obviously, there's some really powerful uh, people. You know, Selma was a really great movie.
Sure.
With MLK, and Malcolm X was amazing, and you've got all these really big stories that end in tragedy that are so sad, right?
Yeah.
And I was trying to think, like, what movies about Black history have I seen where it's just truly celebrating someone's success without the tragic ending. The only one I can think of, there was a movie a couple of years ago. I think it was called Self Made,
Okay.
and it had Octavia Spencer in it.
Mm-hmm.
And she played this woman who started her own beauty line for Black women.
Oh,
And it was like face products and hair products, and this is probably the early 1900s, and she became like super super rich
sure.
from the products that she created. And there wasn't anything that was like, nobody was being shot. It was just truly watching this woman come up with this idea, and something that served her community and like helped women feel good about themselves, and became super successful. And I was like, well, that's the only thing I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there are more than that, but the fact
Yeah.
that I have to really sit and think about it is kind of, the point, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, would Hidden Figures count?
Oh, that's a good one too. Yeah, that would, I think so.
But I think that is almost like muddy because, like, I feel like the
Yeah.
antagonist of that one is like kind of racism in a way.
Yes.
Which, I mean,
And sexism both, in that
yes.
particular case.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a double whammy on that one.
It's
And they
tough.
never got the recognition that they deserved. So it's not tragic as in they were shot or killed at the end, but it is tragic in that these women contributed so much to the space program and never got the acclaim that they deserved, or the
Yeah.
credit that they deserved. That's a very common theme, unfortunately, in a lot of
Unfortunately.
things. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's the point of this one that I'm reading now too, the Harlem Rhapsody. She did all this work and never,
Yeah.
everybody knows W.E.B. Du Bois, but not very many people know her,
Hmm.
which is nice that somebody's highlighting this history now. The other
Yeah.
book by this particular author is called The Personal Librarian, and she worked with okay, so this white author who is really known. Sorry, I'm doing another book deep dive, but um, this white author who's does a lot of historical fiction was writing a book, and she found out about J.P. Morgan's personal secretary, who was a woman who was a black woman who was passing as white.
Oh, okay.
Worked for J.P. Morgan. She was his personal librarian. He was a collector of art and things, and even now, like, his collection is amazing.
Mhm.
But she had to leave her family behind, because if she was going to try to pass as a white person, nobody could see her with her mother or her
Oh,
sister or whatever. She truly had to cut herself off from her family. Um, so her story has been kind of lost. And so Marie Benedict is the author. She finds the story and she's like, I want to tell this story, but I don't know that this is my story to tell.
mm.
So someone says, hey, you should see if you could work with this other black author who's a romance writer. I mean, it's like realistic fiction is even her genre. But I think you guys would get along really well. You should see if maybe she'd be interested in partnering with you on this.
Hmm.
And so then I've heard interviews with the two of them together, and they're like, the first time we met, like we're like sisters. We love each other so much. We talk on the phone every day, and they work together to
Oh,
write this book. And I'm like, now that is really lovely. I
yeah.
think it's lovely. I mean, it's like, maybe I'm not the person to tell this story, but there are things about this story that I feel like I know and I could tell, but I don't want to take ownership of this whole story.
Right.
It's not mine. And it's not the Black authors either, but I think it's good to have that perspective. And so they wrote this book together, which was great. And it was a bestseller. And it was a fantastic book. And then they wrote another book together, which I have not read. But the book that I'm reading right now, Harlem Rhapsody, is by the Black author
Hmm.
of that book. And she's the one that is writing about Harlem in the 1910s or 20s. I can't remember when it is exactly set. I just started it.
Hmm.
And now she's kind of delving into historical fiction on her own. That was never her genre before. The two
Hmm.
of them have learned from each other and, have grown as people. And she found this story and was like, I think I can do this. And I think I should do this. And I think I'm the person to tell the story. And I think it's great. I don't
Yeah.
even know how I got on this topic. Oh, because we were talking about history. so yes, like that's a great the character in this in that first book and her book that she's writing now are truly about women who like really furthered culture and the arts and all of these things and never got the credit that they deserve. And now we're finding these stories and we're telling them and people are reading them. It's not even that they're telling these stories and they're sitting on the shelf and nobody's interested and we're not checking them out.
Hmm.
Like Personal Librarian was a bestseller and is huge. And I just think that is great. Like I am so glad that people are getting the due they deserve
Yeah.
as women, and especially as Black women having to work against so many obstacles in their way.
Hmm.
I just find it incredibly inspiring, and I'm so glad that we are giving people the opportunity to share those stories, and that while
Yeah.
publishing is still very white, there there's at least an attempt to try to hear more Native voices, Native American voices and
Yeah.
whatever.
That's
I
something where the
I like
book world is like leagues ahead of movies. Where like
yeah.
I feel like I don't know. It's something that kind of I mean it really sucks. Or like even like because you know all your Oscars. Like
I
the
do.
the I'm thinking of like big. I mean the two biggest like black led stories that I think won Best Picture would have been Moonlight and Green Book,
Hmm.
and both of those are very
Um, Driving Miss Daisy would be another one. I mean,
sure.
I
I
think
was
those
thinking of
two
like
were
modern
equal
history
co-stars. Okay. Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah, sure.
of like the last 10 years. Those are
You bet.
kind of the
Like
two that I
set
can
within
think
the
of.
last 10 years,
No, like
Moonlight and
within the last 10
huh?
years of Oscars
Uh-huh.
of like big name like black led stories. I mean, I guess like Get Out might also, but that didn't win.
It didn't win, although Jordan Peele's movies are,
Amazing.
huge. People
Yes.
love them and they're really big. I think 12 Years a Slave has been within the last 10 to
Oh, that's
20
true. Because
maybe.
I think that was 2013, right?
Oh, mm, yeah, maybe. Something like that. Later. It's later on my list. I
Uh,
know toward the bottom, which means it's newer. I can picture it in my mind. Yes.
but it's like that kind of goes to show like the point of this movie, where it's like the big like movies that are getting attention that feature
Mhm.
like black people prominently are
Yeah.
movies that have racism and like poverty in the like forefront. Like that is the topics that they're covering.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really want to compare Moonlight to Green Book because I think Moonlight is it's like a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if they're necessarily in the same conversation, but
Mm.
it's like it does kind of suck. Like we had movies in like the 90s and 2000s, like the Wayans brothers were just making like straight
Mm.
up comedies that just happened to have like black people as the leads. Or
Mm.
even like oh, who's the guy in Rush Hour? Uh
Chris
Chris
Tucker.
Tucker. And it was just like he was just a comedy guy and he wasn't always
Mhm.
like I'm a gangster. Like he wasn't like a
Or Eddie
stereotype.
Murphy too.
Eddie
In the
Murphy.
80s, Eddie
Yeah.
Murphy was big in a ton of movies.
And it's just like those it was like
Yeah.
almost not incidental that they were black, but it was like that they weren't embodying stereotypes in ways that I think we are now, which is interesting. The kind of like regression that movies have kind of made when it comes to race relations, which is why like this one felt like such a breath of fresh air. I'm like, it
Mhm.
is calling out all of these things that are going on in culture in a way that was like really succinct and really smart, like and
Mhm.
subtle too. Like it,
Mhm.
except for the end. The end was just like that's when it
Well,
was
maybe
just
you felt like if you haven't gotten it so far, you'll get
yeah,
it here at the end. I'm gonna hit you over the head with it so that, like, if you've missed the entire message of this movie, I'll get it to you before you go.
yeah. I mean, I get that, but that almost feels like we've been operating up here where
Yep.
it's like we're really having this conversation, we're like really poking at these things in a really subtle and real way, and
Mhm.
then at the end it's just like this is the theme of the movie, do you get it yet?
Well, here's another thing that you could another thought is, like, is it also making a commentary on the fact that we dumb down movies, that we don't think that
Well,
people are smart enough to understand the message, and so we have to make it as obvious as possible that
that
we
could
don't
be,
trust the public to understand what we've said this entire time.
it could be,
Or taking a book and making it into a movie, we have to make it for idiots. People aren't stupid.
right.
But I mean, that could be part of the message. I have no idea. I'm just giving him the benefit of the doubt. But I understand what you're saying. I mean, it could go either way.
Yeah, no,
Who knows what he was trying to say? I don't know.
I don't know either, but I don't know. That's not too big a problem, but it is just, it
Mhm.
does kind of stand out in a movie that is so smart and subtle to
Yeah.
have that really big, obvious end. Or it's
Mhm.
not even obvious. It's just, it felt like they were like talking down to us at the end.
Mhm.
I'm like,
Mhm.
don't do that. Like, you was
Mhm.
so smart. Like, that scene when they're doing the awards, that might be like a top 10 scene of mine. And just
Mm.
like how it was written, the
Yeah.
dialogue, every line is so pointed. It's just like,
Mhm.
man, that's such good screenwriting to
Yes.
then have the like end be like, okay, we need to spell it out for the dummies. Like, what? Yeah, man, I don't know. That almost like kind of makes it more disappointing and probably why it like is a problem for me
Mm.
because if if it was like not if it was like a dumb movie and it ended like that, I'd be like, that's kind of quirky. But
Mhm.
it's just because of the everything else that's preceded it where it really stands out.
But that also makes me feel like these are smart people making this movie. Like
Oh yeah.
we've watched and we know the source material is smart and written by a genius. We know that the screenplay and the film is directed by this person, acted by someone who's brilliant. Like
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is this is a project that is full of incredibly smart people. To me, that makes me feel like this was a purposeful choice.
I'm sure it was.
That's how it makes me feel because like these are people who know what they're doing, and
Yeah, yeah.
I think they're trying to send a message with it, but, you know, I don't know. So let me say one more thing about Percival Everett, and then I'm gonna drop him like a
Okay.
hot potato,
Okay.
even though I think he's a genius. And I think if you have not read Erasure or James, I mean, seriously, guys, James is so stinking good. Um, so part of our book club was we were dissecting because we had talked about the book James so many times and we were like getting really deep into the weeds. Some of the questions were things like, okay, well, the cover of the book, why did they use the font with the J? And why was there a
um,
man here? And why, all these questions? What was the symbolism of this? What was the symbolism of that? And he's like, I'm not interested in having these conversations,
yep.
which this is interesting to me. I've never heard an author do this before. He's like, I wrote the book. I put it out there. I know what I meant when I wrote it, but then it's out in the world and it's up to you to decide
Yep.
what you think this means. I am not prescribing my thoughts onto how you took art because you bring your own life experiences with you when you read a book. And
Mm.
so whatever you're getting from my book is what's right.
Yep.
And I'm like, wow. So we're just supposed to take the art at face value and then take our life experiences and, you know,
Yeah.
which I also think maybe is why, I mean, well, I think knowing that and then going back to American fiction, it's like, okay, he's not going to tell you, there's no like tied up with a bow at the end of this movie or book.
Sure.
They both leave you hanging a bit. And it's like, I'm not good. You don't need to know. I'm telling you what I'm telling you. This is my story. I'm putting it out there. It's up to you.
Hmm.
How do you want it to end? What do they get back
Uh,
together at the end? Do they not get together at the end?
I can
Like
see. Yeah.
I've put out my art and you make it what it is to you.
It's
Because
ambiguous.
whatever you think it is not wrong.
Hmm.
He said, I might think you're wrong. And he did qualify that. I might think you're wrong, but I'm never going to tell you that you're
Hmm.
wrong because your perception is what it is.
Yeah.
I just think that's really interesting. There's nothing that goes with it. Like it's
Mm.
same with art. Like whatever
Yeah.
you get from that piece of art is valid because you're bringing your own life experiences to it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never heard an author say that in my life. Usually I'm there like,
This is what I
oh,
meant.
well, the symbolism in this particular blah, blah, blah. Like
Yeah.
he's like, it's whatever you think it is.
I like that.
Fabulous, Percival.
There.
You dreamy, dreamy person, you.
There's a
Really
famous.
like it.
I don't know how famous it is, but there's a David Lynch quote, and I see this interview clip flying around every once in a
Mhm.
while, where he was being interviewed by some British guy, and just out of nowhere, he's like, I'll do the voice. I was like, I shouldn't
Oh,
do the
please
voice. I
do.
gotta,
Please do.
you know, Eraserhead is my most spiritual film. And the British guy says, "Oh, really? Care to elaborate on that?" No. And that's it.
That's so great. That's for me to know.
Yeah, he's just like, hey,
Wow.
according to me, this is my most spiritual film. You take that how you want it.
Yeah. I mean, I just really kind of like that. I'm letting my art speak for itself.
Yeah,
It is to you what it is to you. You're not wrong.
I like it. Yeah.
I like it too. I just was like, wow. It really took me back at the time. And I was like, well, that feels kind of like a cop out. And then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know what? He's right. I mean, it means something specific to him, but that doesn't mean that's what it means to you.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
dude's a genius.
Now it's time to drop him like a hot potato.
Now it's time to drop him like a hot potato. Can
Uh,
I do a recollection correction corner? Look at me. I'm getting so good at that.
sure. I was
You want to do
going
it
to.
now? What were you going
Uh,
to do?
well, I was just going to tie a little bit of a bow on that.
Oh,
Just
please
in,
do.
and I noticed a couple
Mhm.
times that they broke the David Lynch Fableman's rule in this movie,
Okay.
but they did it in a very smart way. Now that I've seen the Fablemans and that scene where he's like, Horizon at the top is interesting, Horizon at the
Mm,
bottom is interesting, Horizon in the middle is boring.
yes.
I've really that's something that that's really
I
stuck
forgot
with
about
me.
that line. Yeah, that was such a good movie. That was such a good
Yes,
movie.
I love that.
Okay.
Might be one of Spielberg's best, and I'm not afraid to say
Yeah, I like that one.
it.
I agree. I really liked it.
But I've just noticed that more in movies where I'm like, it's interesting. Or like I feel like in westerns a lot the horizon is very low, where the sky
Mm,
takes up a lot of space. And so when I was like watching this, there's moments where he's on the beach and the horizon is
mhm,
exactly in the middle.
mm,
And at first I was like, haha, they broke the David Lynch rule.
uh-huh.
So silly. When this movie would have been way better if they if they framed the shot better. But
Oh
then
my
like
God.
as I was watching it, because it's at that moment, I don't. Oh, it would have been better because I think it might have been at like the funeral for the sister,
Mm,
and the horizon is exactly in the middle. And I think it was like shortly after that when he starts writing the book, and I'm like, okay, this is I don't know if this was intentional, but
mhm,
it could be like directly symbolic of like him having two separate lives and like he's embarking on this like second thing.
mm,
He's splitting his personalities where now he has to like take on this alias and act completely different to how he usually does and talk completely different. And here he is looking at this horizon that's dead in the middle and it splits the screen in half. And I'm like, oh, is there something there? Maybe not. Probably
I don't
not.
know. That's an interesting question. I mean, is the David Lynch rule something that is just accepted? I know, like, when you do
I,
photography, they say split your frame in
a
thirds
rule of
and never put
thirds.
anything in that middle third. It should
Well,
always be on one side or the other, makes it more visually interesting.
yeah. I mean, the
Is
rule
it
of
true
thirds
for film?
definitely still applies
Yeah.
in film. Um, I'm not sure. I don't know if that's actually a John Ford quote because he's playing
Mm.
John Ford in that scene.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Um, so it might be something taken from John Ford.
That
Um,
could be I'm gonna research it for next week.
okay.
Okay. Keep going.
Uh, so I don't know how well known that is, but I don't know. I, I I don't know. I've become that type of person now where I'm like starting to look at like the visual language of film,
Mhm.
and I'm like,
It's
oh,
interesting.
it's interesting. I'm getting some symbolism here. I'm becoming a real film critic.
You sound like, someone who's at a book club.
Yeah. uh,
Yeah,
but
looking
that.
for symbolism, but I think that, the cool thing about film is because it's such a visual medium, there's so much you can do with film.
Oh yeah.
There's there are pros and cons to each thing. You can get a lot more internal when you're looking at books,
Mhm.
but you get so many amazing visuals with film.
Oh yeah.
They're just two very different mediums, but also both have, really great things about them. And
Hmm.
that's what I really loved about this. One of the things I really loved about this is to take something that I had imagined in my mind and then to see it on screen and have it not be disappointing,
Yeah.
even though there are changes. Because sometimes you're like people who get mad about, like, oh, well, it wasn't like the book.
That.
The
I,
changes they made such good sense. And it was like, it was just as good as a movie, even though it wasn't the same as the book. And Percival Everett's like, "That's okay, like, it shouldn't be the same."
right.
The fact that these are 2 different mediums changes the story and the way that you tell it,
Absolutely.
and both are valuable in their own way.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite video essayists is Bread Sword, and he has this great quote. I don't remember if he was talking about The Lion King or Doctor Strangelove, but he
Okay.
was saying he was like everybody who says that the book was better than the movie, that is completely wrong.
Mm,
When you say that, how I'm interpreting it is it's like if someone said, "I prefer my mom's homemade cooking to this restaurant." And
mm,
it's like those are two completely different beasts. There are things that like are way better at a restaurant, like
mhm,
more complex. They have a bigger kitchen and are able to do all these things. But
mhm,
you know, every once in a while you need to go home and have mom cook you some mac and cheese or something.
mhm.
And like that's also great. There's no reason to, even though they're different, there's no reason to say, oh, well, that's bad because it's different.
Right.
It's an invalid argument.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm glad that this didn't kind of turn into that. Where
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I thought it was cast incredibly well.
mm,
Everyone in this movie was wonderful. I
oh
had
yeah,
never seen I loved oh, by the way, I loved that side story with the,
oh, is
housekeeper
it
and
Lucinda or Lorraine?
Malcolm.
Yeah,
Was it Malcolm?
I think so.
Marlin?
Maynard,
Something with
Maynard
M.
and Lorraine.
Malcolm, Marlin, Maynard. That was the sweetest,
It was.
and I do remember that from the book too, but he oh, I just wanted to squeeze his cheeks. He was just so cute. He had the nicest
He
smile,
did.
and he exuded a real sweetness to him and a gentleness that I really, really loved. I liked that character so much.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
like, I know. I s- Oh,
do you know him from something?
he's in Malcolm X, and he's in
Oh,
Shutter Island,
okay.
the Manchurian Candidate. He's in a lot of stuff.
Wow, he is.
Wow. I'm like, I know I've seen him, but I don't really
Mhm.
remember him in Shutter Island. Maybe I'm
Mm.
remembering him in Malcolm X
Yeah, you recently watched that one, so it
a
hasn't been
couple
too
years ago. Yeah. I'm not sure, but he
Yeah,
definitely
I
looked
really
familiar.
liked. Yeah, I just thought, sometimes you see people and you're like, you seem like you're a really nice person.
Yes.
He seemed like that to me. I mean, I hope he's not a real a-hole in real life, but I mean, I thought in the movie he seemed lovely. I
Yeah, I
really
don't.
liked him a lot. I thought that storyline was very sweet. She
It
spent her whole
was.
life serving this family, and they're heading into these really rough years, and she finds happiness, and she hated that apron, and she only wore it because his dad had bought it for her. She hated the color.
Mm.
And I was just like, "Oh, it meant so much to him. Like, don't you want this? This is so much a part of my childhood. Don't you want it?" No, I hated the color. Oh,
Yeah, that was really sweet too.
it
When
was.
Cliff brought like his gay friends over, and they
Yes.
were
Oh, I loved that.
immediately like, "Oh, come on, you're welcome to be at our
Mhm.
house." I'm like, that's just so sweet. I love that.
I loved that. I loved
Yeah,
that too. The scene where they're all dancing in the living room,
yeah.
like the whole group of 'em, everybody, the guy in his Speedo, like this
He
is
put on a shirt, but he's still not wearing pants.
I know, I know. I just really I that. And it's one of those things too where you're flipping those stereotypes on their heads
Right.
and just say you don't expect the old people to be the ones who are like schooling the young person on being accepting and
All
all
right.
of that.
Yeah.
And she was. She what a great character. It was such a good movie. I loved it.
It's
I'm
a
glad
great
you liked
movie.
it too.
Yeah,
I really
really,
did.
really good.
Good.
Now it's time for recollection correction corner.
Oh, hey, look at you. We both got it without. So here's the thing. Now at this point, I can't say it because I will trip the second time. First time, I'll get it. Here we go. So last time we were talking about raising Arizona,
Yeah.
which was so fun. I said Fargo was in North Dakota, or that
Uh,
was in South Dakota, but it's in North Dakota.
oh.
So we got that wrong. Both of us got that one wrong. And I knew it as soon as we got off. I was like, dang it.
Yeah.
100% that was North Dakota.
I'm like, I know that's up here by me, but I didn't know if it was like in the northern bit of South Dakota.
Well, I mean, if we listened to the accent,
Well,
we would
yeah,
have known that it would have been
absolutely.
north just because it's so close to Canada.
Yeah.
That was definitely her accent was definitely sounded very Canadian, northern
I
Minnesotan,
think
like Duluth,
I think she's from
Bemidji.
Bemidji, and I don't
She's
know.
from Bemidji?
Yeah.
I just said Bemidji right before you said Bemidji.
Oh,
We've been to Bemidji. Did you know we've been to Bemidji?
no, I did not. Why were we in Bemidji?
We went to Bemidji when we went to the cabin up in northern Minnesota in Black Duck, Minnesota. That is where we heard the loons.
Oh.
We went with some friends of ours and their kids. We loaded y'all up into the van and we drove. Took forever to get there. And we stayed in this cabin, and the mosquitoes were so stinking bad.
Oh
Northern
yeah.
Minnesota mosquitoes are horrendous. And the
Yeah.
only way you could get away from them was to go out on the lake. And I hate fishing, and it's very boring.
Yes.
And so I spent so much time on the lake because I wanted to get away from the mosquitoes. And so we got to a point where it was like, we got to go somewhere. Like we're sitting out here in the middle of nowhere in Black Duck, Minnesota. Bemidji is the next biggest town. We drive ourselves over to Bemidji. We go to the Ben Franklin. We buy yarn, and I teach one of the girls how to crochet um, with yarn from the Ben Franklin in Bemidji. And I think that's where the Babe and the Big Ox are.
Yes. Yep.
We have pictures of us, right? Yes,
That's
we
the
have
shot in the
pictures of you
movie.
guys with them.
Oh,
We-
interesting.
Yeah, if you go back through our old photos, you will find pictures of you with Babe and the Big Blue Ox. So,
Huh.
anyway, yes, we have been to Bemidji. There's that little tidbit of your history that you don't remember. You had a Tigger fishing pole.
Oh, nice. How old
Yeah,
was I?
you were 2 or 3.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense why I don't remember it then.
You were. It was. It was the summer you turned 2.
Okay.
That is the summer that we took a picture of you and their little girl in the kitchen sinks taking baths on either side, and it was the
Mm.
cutest picture, and you have shampoo in your hair.
And,
Oh, you
and
and Brittany.
and now that story is on the internet, and that's
It is
fun.
immortalized forever.
That's
Anyway, that
nice.
was the same trip, but we are not fishing people. We are not in general camping and outdoorsy people, but our friends were. And so they were like, let's go to Minnesota and stay in a cabin and go fishing. And we were all like, okay, because we love you guys, we will go. And so they bought you a fishing pole so it was from Scott and Inez, and they gave you this little Tigger fishing pole that was so cute. It was wonderful. Okay. Back to Marge Gunderson, right? Is that her
Yeah,
name in the movie? Okay.
Marge Gunderson. Nice.
Hey, I've never even seen it, and I know. Well, it is very much in the everybody talks about it.
Sure.
I always say the word zeitgeist. I get sick of saying the word zeitgeist, but it is something that people chat about.
Hmm.
Okay, so we were talking about Frances McDormand and Joel Cohen, and we were like, how long have they been married? When did blah, 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 when did they meet? The answer to that is they've been married since 1984.
And they're still married?
Still married, 41 years together.
Wow.
They met when she auditioned for Blood Simple,
That
their
makes
first
sense.
movie.
Yep.
Yep.
Hmm.
And then I looked at how often she had been cast, and that gave me this really amazing list of the people that they have put most often in their movies. So
Oh, interesting.
I'll give you numbers 6 well, 6 is the most. Guess who you
Okay.
think it might be. Who is number 6? Who's been in 6 Coen Brothers movies?
Ooh, that's tough.
Mm-hmm.
Is it John Goodman?
It is not.
Huh. Who is it?
It is Steve Buscemi.
He's in that many?
6. Yeah. He is the number 1. Steve
Oh,
Buscemi.
yeah.
5 times was John Goodman. So he's right up there.
Ah,
John Goodman, Frances McDormand is also at number 5, and John Polito, which I saw a picture of him. I'm like, he must be more of like a side character actor sort of person because he wasn't anybody I really recognized.
John Polito?
And then yeah, John Polito, Polito.
Oh, I don't know.
Do you see him?
Oh,
Do you know him? Is he familiar? Or is he more like a character actor?
I think he's a character actor. I see, yeah. I've seen all these movies, but I don't remember him in any of these.
Yes.
He's just character actor
Um,
guy.
that's kind of what I figured.
Yeah.
And then 4 times, this will be the lowest I'll go on this one. 4 times was John Turturro.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So those are the 3 biggest who've starred in the most of their movies.
That's interesting.
Okay, so then yeah, I thought it was interesting myself. McDormand, I took some other things. She Frances McDormand is the second woman to win Best Actress 3 times.
Oh.
After Katharine Hepburn. So she's the second one. Katharine Hepburn and her. That's it.
Interesting.
And she is the 7th performer ever to win 3 acting Oscars.
Oh.
Uh-huh. So I thought that was interesting.
What did she win for? I know Fargo.
Fargo. Did she do let me see.
Did she do 3 Billboards? And Nomadland?
And Nomadland.
Are those the 3?
Yeah, I think so. Yes. And she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress for her roles in Mississippi Burning, Almost Famous, and Most Famous. And I think she won.
I think she won for Mississippi Burning.
Oh, North Country. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe. No, I don't think that's right. Hold on.
She didn't win for Mississippi Burning?
She was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for her roles in Mississippi Burning. And it just says nominated, Almost Famous, and North Country. So no, she didn't win for those.
Okay.
But she did win 3 times for Best Actress, like not supporting, but regular role Best Actress. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
The movies that she has appeared in, I'll give those to you.
Okay.
First one was Blood Simple.
Yep.
And then Raising Arizona. So Blood Simple was 1984, so they got married the same year.
Wow.
That's interesting also. Raising Arizona, Miller's Crossing.
Yep.
Barton Fink, Fargo. This feels like more than 5. This is more than 5. 1, 2. Well, sometimes you can't trust your sources. Maybe this is a situation where I can't trust the sources. But this is like more than 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're saying 8 here.
On
I
what?
don't know where I got it. Wikipedia or something. I don't know. Okay, I'm just going to listen to for you. Maybe I just totally discounted my previous little interesting tidbit of information.
It's
I need to
fine.
start writing down my sources so I can say. Okay, Blood Simple, Raising Arizona, Miller's Crossing, Barton Fink, Fargo, The Man Who Wasn't There, Burn After Reading, and Hail Caesar.
She was in all those?
That's what it says.
Holy cow.
If Wikipedia is right, that is the word.
Yeah,
Um,
well, okay, interesting. Miller's
what is this?
Crossing, she is uncredited as mayor's
Mm,
secretary. in,
okay.
in Barton Fink, she is just a voice role, but
Oh,
uncredited. So like there
okay.
Frances McDormand is almost their like John Ratzenberger, where they like they just have her in everything, even if it's a small little cameo.
Yes.
That's
Okay. So I
interesting.
okay. But even if I take those two out, she's at 6. But I
Yeah.
mean, they should still count those, even though she didn't appear. Like they should still count her in that number. So I'm going to take it back. I'm going to say Frances McDormand beat out Steve Buscemi for the A number 1, if that's true.
Unless Steve Buscemi has other uncredited roles in their other
I mean,
movies too.
you know what? That's also possible. That is also possible. I don't know. Okay. She's also won what they call the Triple Crown of Acting
Hmm.
because she's received 3 BAFTA awards, 2 Golden Globe awards, 1 Tony.
Holy cow.
She's won 2 Primetime Emmy Awards and 4 Academy Awards total because one
Hmm.
of her movies won Best Picture, so she
Oh,
gets that. So,
sure.
very, very much award winning
Oh,
person,
yeah.
as we all know, but like more than I even knew. I didn't know she won a Tony. That was interesting to me.
She's one of the best, in
Yeah,
my humble opinion,
this was the first movie I've ever seen her in.
in Raising Arizona.
Yeah, and she was in there for like 10 minutes.
That's a shame. We need to
I
change
know.
that.
Yes, yes. All right, I looked up the tattoo and the whole situation
The
with my
tattoo.
theory on whether the dude
Oh,
on the motorcycle is Nicolas Cage's dad.
yes.
Okay. So I did a little bit of a deep dive on that. Okay. So first of all, I found out that the logo that we were like, you thought it was part of a motor parts
Mm-hmm.
company. You were right. So good job. Yay. This isn't necessarily a correction. The correction is for me because I said the wrong company. It
Oh.
is Clay Smith Cams. So
Oh.
logo of Clay Smith Cams in the 1950s. And
Okay.
they made high performance engine parts. So
Mm.
you were right. It is the trademark clenched cigar, and it's
Oh,
supposed to
okay.
represent the Clay Smith himself. It's known as Mr. Horsepower. That's the name
Oh,
of that particular character
nice.
that was tattooed on there. Okay, so I go out. I cannot like I'm like, is the motorcycle man his father? I'm trying to figure out like where can I get this information? It's driving me crazy. I end up on Reddit, of course,
Of
because I
course.
can't find anything. People are like, people who think this guy is his father are total idiots. And I was like, oops, that's me.
Oh,
They were
why?
calling people like me idiots.
Why? What were they saying?
Because what they say it is that it's him, as that this character represents his criminal side,
Oh.
his law breaking side. And that when they see that tattoo, it's not him recognizing his father, it's him reconsidering his past life with the law and deciding that he's going to go a new way. And so when he blows that up, he blows up that part of his life. And then after that, you see that
Mm.
like he's turned a corner and they now have this, idyllic little life together. And so that's what everybody else thinks, or a good number of other people who are smarter probably than me. But
What did we just say about interpreting art?
oh, you know what? What a great uh oh my goodness. What a great, like when you come back around to something, what's the word? What a
uh,
great
what? Thai? No. Oh, I can't think of it. Only thing that coming to mind is Segway, and that's definitely not it.
No, it is uh,
Callback?
a what? Callback.
Callback.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Callback. That's a great callback. Good job. You're
Yeah,
right. You're right. So people who are calling me an idiot don't know what they're talking about.
they weren't calling you an idiot.
Yeah. Well, they were saying people thought that it was his dad were idiots.
Well, those people are pretty dumb if they're
Right.
unwilling to accept other interpretations.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't see anything out there that said this is what the Coen brothers said it meant. I didn't see anything that was like directly from their mouths. So who knows?
I
I
think
don't
it's
know.
pretty ambiguous. I think either way
Hmm.
works. Because
Yeah,
I
for
do
sure.
like that explanation that you said, where it is kind of
Hmm.
his other side.
Yeah, right, right.
That
And he
makes
did
sense.
turn a corner after that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. I could see it too. Okay, and then my last thing in recollection correction corner C. It's that third time. It's the second time I say it that I always mess it up. I wanted to do a little bit about Anna Paquin. We were talking about the fact that she won the Oscar. She won the Best Supporting Oscar for the piano in
Yes.
1994. Okay, so Anna Paquin is the second youngest Oscar winner. So I was right about that, behind Tatum O'Neal. Anna Paquin was 11 when
Mm.
she won, which is so crazy to me to have an 11-year-old win. Tatum O'Neal was 10
Hmm.
when she won for Best Supporting Actress in the movie Paper Moon, which I also got right. So
Oh,
even though this is my correction, I got both of those things right. I was pretty proud of myself. But
hey.
then I found some other random trivia that I thought might be interesting for people to know. That film won 3 Oscars, including the Best Original Screenplay for Jane Campion,
For piano or
the
Paper Moon?
piano,
Oh, okay.
the piano. Best Original Screenplay for Jane Campion,
Mm-hmm.
and Best Actress for Holly Hunter.
Oh, okay.
So there you go, 3 Oscars for 3 women in a movie from 1994.
What?
Go girls! Woo!
Yeah, girl power.
Girl power. I never saw that movie. I thought it was a really sad World War II movie.
Hmm. That's the pianist.
Yep. But it. So I did say last week on the podcast, oh, it's a really sad movie, but it does sound like when I read the description that it is also sad.
Okay.
Like parts of it are kind of sad, and she's mute. Holly Hunter is mute,
Hmm.
and she falls in love with someone, and somehow a piano key somebody gives her a piano key off this piano, and then they throw the piano in the ocean, and
Oh, you haven't
I have no
seen it.
idea. I haven't seen it. I don't really know, but it wasn't what I thought it was. I thought it was World War II, and it wasn't. But I was right about that she was the second youngest, that she was 11, and that Tatum O'Neal was 10. And it
Hmm.
kind of blows my mind that these young kids are. But what's also interesting now that I'm okay, uh, Adrian Brody is the youngest male Oscar winner
For that
when he
movie, right?
won for what movie?
Was it the pianist?
It was.
How old was he?
Oh, he was in his 20s.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's not like a teenager in that
He's
movie.
not like 11
Yeah.
or 11 or whatever. No, he was older, but that's funny because both the titles of both of those are very similar. Um, but I'm gonna look it up. So,
Yeah.
uh, how old? That was the big old Oscar winning situation when he kissed Halle Berry, which he
Oh,
has now apologized for.
there was a lot of controversy with that because that was
Not
Roman
yet.
Polanski.
The movie,
Roman
the
Polanski
pianist was.
wrote and direct that movie,
Oh no way!
and like I it didn't win Best Picture, did it?
No,
I think it
it
won
was nominated
something.
though.
It won something. Maybe he won for Best Directing or something.
I mean that's possible because I remember he was not there.
He couldn't because he was a fugitive
Yeah,
for being
because he was a creep.
a child sex predator.
Oh yeah, terrible,
Yeah,
terrible.
because that whole movie is shot in Poland. Like they couldn't go to America or do anything in Hollywood, no sets or anything, because he can't get back into the country.
Yeah, and has been for a long time.
Yes.
Adrian Brody was 29.
Okay.
barely in his 20s. Yeah, I remember that being a big deal because people were like, "Is he going to show up? Like, what are they going to do? What happens if he wins?" I do remember this whole conversation around it. And
Yeah.
then Halle Berry gives Adrian Brody his Oscar, and he plants a big old one. And you know what? At that time, everybody was like, "Ha ha ha, that's so funny." And we look back on it now, and it's like that really wasn't funny. How humiliating for her,
Yeah.
and also like completely inappropriate. I am glad that he has since apologized
Yeah.
but yeah, that was not a good look at
No,
that
it's
time.
not.
And you know what? That's gonna and it's gonna hang. That's going to be something he's remembered for a really long time, which is, you know,
See, I didn't. I mean, now that you mention it, I feel like I've heard that somewhere, but I don't
oh,
think of that when I think of Adrian Brody. I think of, oh, he's in all those Wes Anderson movies, and I like him in all those.
oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, like he dipped her and everything. It was
Oh,
Yeah, you
yeah.
should go out and watch it at some point because it really is like everybody was like, "Oh, that's so funny." He was just so excited about winning his Oscar that he grabbed her and like it wasn't like a real quick kiss. It was a I'm gonna kiss
Oh.
you and dipped her and it lasted for a little bit of time and the look on her face when he brought her back up was like, "What the HELL hockey sticks?" Um
Yeah, I would imagine.
we would
That's
just were
gross.
not as you know,
Well, shoot.
people were that's 2003. That's not even that long ago, man.
It's
That was
over 20 years ago.
Oh gosh. You're right. My frame of reference is very off.
Yeah, I'm
But yeah,
like,
that's the year
uh,
your sister was born.
right. Yeah, it was a pretty long time ago, but
It was a long time ago. Anyway, it was just such a thing that that is I've never really I've seen some Wes Anderson movies, but
yeah,
um that's really what I know him from because I never saw The Pianist either. It
uh,
was that moment that I knew
sure.
him from. So for me, it's kind of crazy to think that people haven't seen it because,
I haven't
as a
seen that clip. I've seen The Pianist, and he's great in it, but
okay, so he deserved that Oscar. He just
oh
maybe
yeah,
should have not let Roman Polanski rub off on him and
yeah,
treat women in a way that is not
yeah,
respectful.
yeah.
I'll just say that. I'll
I'll
just say
just say
that.
that I don't know. Now that you say that, I was going to pick a movie that had Adrian Brody in it. Now I don't know if
Oh,
I want to do that.
that was what you were going to pick for this week?
Not The Pianist. No, just a different
Oh,
movie with
but with him
Adrian.
this week.
Yeah, I was going
Okay.
to.
You know what? He's apologized because
Okay.
here's the thing. Like, he was 29 years old. He's young. His frontal lobe was barely developed at that point. Like, a few years in, he was a few years in, but we have to be like, if someone, here's my thing. If you will admit that you really effed something up and you apologize and you are truly remorseful,
Hmm.
then people deserve a second chance. I really do believe that. If
Yeah.
you're like a total jerk about it and you're like, whatever, she needs to get over it, man, then no, you don't deserve a second chance. But
Right.
if you are like, I didn't know better, I'm really sorry, that sucks that I did that, then yes, we should watch an Adrian Brody movie.
Okay.
If you want to, if that's what you want to watch. I'm very curious what you're picking.
Well, I was actually going to pick, it's a Wes Anderson movie, but
Okay.
it is The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
Oh, okay. So let me make a list of who's in that. Can I
Okay.
just see if who I can come up with because this is a fun little game.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much know everybody that's in that one, so
Okay, so I can come up with three.
okay.
Okay, I think Adrian Brody,
Yes,
obviously.
obviously.
Um, James Franco.
I don't think so.
No,
Mm-mm.
oh, I don't know why I think he's in it. I do know that Bill Murray's in it.
Yes, he's in it.
Those were my three. So if James Franco's not in it, I missed one.
James
I don't
Franco
see that.
is not a Wes Anderson regular.
No, no, that I knew.
Okay.
I think I've seen pictures from the like still photos of it when it's like, what is the name of this movie? I, I thought it was I thought it was James Franco in the picture
I don't
where they're
think.
sitting in a movie theater. Is that from this movie?
Are you thinking of The Disaster Artist?
That is what I'm thinking of.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay, so no, I know I no, I'm Yes, that is what I'm thinking of.
Well, Bill Murray and
100%.
Adrian Brody are in it, but also Owen Wilson
I,
and Willem Dafoe.
of
He's in
course.
it.
Yeah.
Jeff Goldblum. He's in
Mm,
it.
I'm a
Uh,
fan.
Pretty much all the Wes Anderson regulars.
Sure. Tilda
Um,
Swinton. Is Tilda Swinton in it?
uh,
Scarlett Johansson?
no, I don't think either of those
Mm.
are. That was like, it's not super early, but it's before Grand Budapest. So it's like kind of before like you went mainstream, I guess. I don't know.
How about Saoirse Rowan? Saoirse
No, I
Rowan in
think
it?
I think her first one is Grand Budapest.
I'm such a fan of her.
Oh, she's fantastic. I love her
Yes,
in everything that she's been in.
me too. I think she's so wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, she's so good.
Well,
Okay.
I'm
All right. Well,
excited.
this is fun. I have zero idea what this is about. Is this the
Oh,
one that's about? Oh, wait a minute. Steve Zissou. Is this the dude that makes bad movies?
he's a he's like a wildlife documentarian.
Okay. Nope. I'm totally wrong then.
Okay. No, you're
I'm
thinking of the disaster artist.
That's what I'm thinking of. It's the guy that makes bad movies, right? And then people show up for his movie and everyone laughs at him, and it's like so sad.
Are you thinking of Ed Wood now? The disaster artist is the making of The Room.
Yeah.
The-
Okay. Yeah. With the
yeah,
dude who.
Tommy
I,
Wiseau.
yes. Okay.
Yes, that's the disaster artist. Steve
Okay.
Zissou is a fake guy.
I'm sorry, but those are too close together, and
Oh,
he
I
has a
guess
different name.
Steve Zissou and Tommy Wiseau. I see it.
Yeah.
I see
That's very confusing. Okay. Go ahead.
it.
Okay. So tell me what it's about. Just a high level.
He's specifically he like does documentaries about ocean life. And
Mm.
his newest documentary was unveiled at this film festival where he's tracking down this fish. And it ends with the fish eating one of the crewmates and Steve Zissou's best friend. And so
Oh.
now he's getting ready to do another film, the follow-up, where they track it down and kill it. But
Okay.
all of the what makes this movie kind of interesting and kind of a fun little time capsule is it's the first time that Wes Anderson used stop motion animation because all of the
Oh.
fish and all of the underwater scenes are all stop motion.
No, that's cool.
So it's kind of a fun little
Okay.
multimedia thing. So
Yeah, I like that. I like the little creativity in there.
yeah.
I also like the way you were like, I cannot remember the words you said right before you went, huh. It was in the middle of a sentence. You're in the middle of the sentence and you were like, he was like, huh. And you said the rest of the sentence. It
Oh,
was
I
very
don't
funny.
remember what I said.
I don't remember. When you go back to edit, go back and listen. You go, in the middle of the sentence. That's what made me laugh. Sorry. It was like a little interjection in the middle of your sentence. It was very cute.
Oh,
Um, okay, well, I'm looking forward to this. I like a little experimental creativity sort of things. That's good.
well, it's not super experimental. It's just fun and cute.
Yeah.
And the music is really good.
Oh.
It's I forget his name. He's Jamaican.
Oh.
He's a Jamaican singer-songwriter. The whole soundtrack is acoustic covers of David Bowie songs.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And
Okay.
he has a very interesting voice and he's like it's
Okay.
diegetic too cuz he's like playing music on the boat to everybody. So it's kind of cool. He's
Yeah.
kind of like the musician. I don't know if he does like the soundtracks and scores of the movie, but it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of fun cuz he's always there singing songs.
I like that.
It's fun. It's a good one.
This sounds good. So is it more of a comedy?
Yes. Yep. But not to give too much away, but a big thrust of the movie is also Owen Wilson kind of approaches Bill Murray at that premiere and is like, I think I'm your son. Like, my mom just died and she said that, like, your dad is Steve Zissou. But, like, he didn't know, Steve didn't know, and Owen Wilson didn't know until she died. And now he's on the boat. He wants to be a part of his life
Wow.
now. And so, like, it is this really nice thing where, like, Bill Murray's on this, like, he's hunting down this fish, but also he's, like, learning how to be a dad because he doesn't have any
Oh,
kids. So it's like this really nice father son story that's kind of
yeah.
embedded in
I
it.
like that.
So
Oh, this will be good. I'm
it's
excited
nice.
about
It's a
it.
good one.
That sounds it's going to be good. I'm excited. I
Yeah.
mean, the only Wes Anderson I've ever seen is Grand Budapest.
You haven't seen Fantastic Mr. Fox?
No, you and I watched that together. That's right. I forgot that was him. So those two are the only two I've seen.
Okay. Well, he's one of
Um,
my favorites.
I really love his use of color.
Yes. The
The
pastels.
visuals are so great.
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing something one time, and they were like, there are where I don't even know where I learned this, but they were talking about how, you know, uh, someone will decide the palette for the movie. That there's an actual palette for the movie
Mm-hmm.
blows my mind that is something
Oh,
that
yeah.
people think about and look through. And I feel like with him,
Oh, it's.
it is unmistakable. You can
Mm-hmm.
go like, okay, the colors in this movie are pink or whatever. But once somebody pointed that out to me, I was like, oh my gosh, that is like really true. You can see it in what colors they choose for the walls, what color they use for wardrobe, how they it's so
Mm-hmm.
interesting how that all coordinates together. Something that I never would have noticed before. I just
Yeah.
thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I feel like him especially, where it's like
Yeah.
Grand Budapest is pastel purples and
Mhm.
Fantastic Mr. Fox are like rusty oranges.
Oh
This
yeah.
movie is very sky blue.
Oh, I like that.
Uh, like even recently, like Asteroid City is like a really bright blue. Or
Mm.
it's not quite like sky blue, it's more like a neon blue.
Like a bright turquoise blue,
Yeah, kinda.
like
Yeah, almost exactly that. Yeah.
which is like a bright teal blue that like the top of my cup.
Yeah.
Yes. For those of you who are not watching us,
Oh, not in TV land.
not in TV land.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, okay. Well, this is exciting. This is fun. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to it.
I'm pumped. I haven't seen it in a hot minute, so it'll be good.
I think I wrote down what I was going to pick next because I was like, this is what I need to do. But now I don't remember what it is. So it'll be a surprise next week.
All
But
right.
I had gone out. You'd be so proud of me. I went out to Letterboxd and
Oh,
I made a private list. I've never done that before so that I can keep track of the movies that I want to. I was just keeping it on a list and paper list on my phone. But now I'm like, oh, I can make a private list on Letterboxd
yeah,
and I can keep track of them there. So that was exciting to me.
yeah.
How many stars did you give American Fiction, by the way?
I think I gave it 4. Wait, no, I think I gave it 4.5.
I think that's what I did too.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, I liked it too. Thank you for watching that with me for Black
Absolutely.
History Month. Black History Month still exists, whether Google puts it on their calendar or not.
Oh, did Google take it
Go
off?
Black History. Yeah,
Oh,
they did.
yeah. See, I'm
All the
so.
history months, all the Women's History Month and the
Oh,
Black History Month and the Pacific Islander Month, all of them
sure.
are gone. So,
Yeah,
along with the Gulf of Mexico. But we won't get into that today. I will still celebrate Black History Month, as should everyone.
sure.
So, I'm glad we watched that movie. That was great.
It was a good
It was
one.
a really good movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. Yep,
So that'll do it for this show.
we'll do it. Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to say? You're done. That
Well,
was the lead into the end.
yeah, I was just like, this is the end of the show. If you like what we're doing, we have a bunch of other episodes that we've done, whether it's Break In or Princess Mononoke or Doctor Strangelove.
Mhm.
We're we have quite a back catalog, 5 or so episodes, I guess. So check
Yes.
those out. They're pretty G dang good if you like this one.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, Also, I do another show, Boy Time, talk about music, and I also do another podcast, just Boy Time Podcast, where I talk about movies. Most recently, me and my friend Babby did a little feature, kind of similar to this podcast, but on
Hmm.
Blade Runner 2049.
Mm.
So if you want to hear our thoughts on that movie, go ahead and check it out. It is out now. So,
Nice.
spoiler alert, we both loved it. So
Oh, you did. Is that Ryan Gosling?
it is. Ryan
He's
Gosling.
dreamy.
Yeah, he's great. I love Ryan
So
Gosling and
dreamy.
everything.
Yes. Did you see might have been at the SAG Awards, the clip of Harrison Ford and his co-star from Shrinking, where they cut to her to do like an intro or something, and he takes that minute to look directly at the camera and put a chip in his mouth. And she was like, I told you not to. It was so cute. I love them. Oh, they're so cute together. I love Harrison Ford. Oh,
Oh, I
so
love him
both of
too.
them are dreamy. So there you go.
Yeah, Harrison Ford.
That's fun.
Ana de Armas is in it too. She's great.
She's pretty.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
I have never seen either one of them, so I'm glad you guys liked it, though. I'm
Yeah,
glad to hear it was good.
yeah. The second one's better.
Oh, is it?
I'll
Okay.
say that.
Who wrote it? The Running
The
Man. It's based on a book.
It's based on Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick.
Yes.
Because, of course it is, because Philip K. Dick is the only one whose titles sound like that.
Oh, I know. And it's a whole series, I think. I think that's the first one in a series, maybe.
I don't know. I know that Total Recall is We Can Remember It For You Wholesale.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know he wrote that. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a deep dive.
Okay.
Well, not a deep dive, but I am going to find out if that's part of a series.
Yeah, I don't know.
For some reason, I was thinking that was Stephen King. But that is not Stephen King.
No, it's old.
Yeah. Okay. Wait a minute. Are you sure that's not Adams?
No, it's
Is
Philip
it
K.
Philip
Dick.
K. Dick?
Mm-hmm.
Did Philip K. Dick do The Golden Compass?
I don't know. It doesn't have a title that's a full
Pullman.
sentence, so I don't know.
That's Pullman. That's Pullman. Sorry. Philip Pullman, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Never mind. Ignore me. Okay. Sorry. Sorry, guys. The librarian can't help it. I just can't help it.
I guess you just don't know your 50s and 60s sci-fi.
Yeah, sci-fi is not my genre generally.
Oh, I love
Other
sci-fi.
than Andy Weir. Andy Weir?
Yes.
Oh my.
The Martian guy.
The Martian. And so Martian was really good, and then the next one was not as great, and then the third one, Project Hail Mary, is so stinking good, and I do not like sci-fi all that much. I mean, it's okay, but that one would make such a fabulous movie.
I know they're
They need to
already
make
working on it.
Are they? Oh, that's so good because it is such a cool book.
Yeah,
I really love it.
I think they like pretty much announced that as soon as the book came out.
It was excellent. It has some really deep themes, and it's going to be interesting to see how they do it because it opens in a way where you're like, what the heck is going on?
Oh.
The opening is like, it gets you right from the very beginning. It's so stinking good. Okay. Yes. Well, great.
So those
Running
are the other shows. Not The Running Man.
Not Running
Blade
Man, Blade
Runner.
Runner. Running Man. Running Man, that might be Stephen King.
Maybe. I don't know. That's another
Arnold
Schwarzenegger. They're remaking that.
No way.
Did you know that? And do you know who's
No.
directing it? Do you want to take a guess? You're not going to guess it.
Okay, no, I don't want to take it.
Okay, it's Edgar Wright.
Oh, okay. No, I would not have come up with that.
No.
I would not have come up with that.
I wouldn't either.
A Stephen King.
Hey, there
I
you
did
go.
an in the moment recollection correction corner, and I was right. Stephen King wrote The Running Man, but it was published under his pseudonym, which is Richard Bachman.
Alan Smithy. Oh.
Richard Bachman is
Richard
his
Bachman.
pen name. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there you go. Okay, interesting. Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
Oh, he's your fave. You love Edgar Wright. You love Hot Fuzz and all of those.
Hot Fuzz. Yeah, the Cornetto trilogy is some of my favorite movies.
Yeah, for the longest time, they were your very most favorite. Like your number one top movies. But you've seen a lot of movies since then.
Hot Fuzz is still a top 4. Fargo is now my favorite movie.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
As of right now.
Yeah.
But
my favorite movie is what's my favorite movie? Do you know?
Grease? I don't know.
When Harry Met Sally.
Oh, that's a good answer. That's a good movie.
It's so good. It is so, so good. On our staff, out of 18, I always ask people random questions like, what's your favorite restaurant? What's your favorite color? And that kind of stuff. And I gather that information, and then at our staff appreciation party every year, I put together this thing where you have to guess who answered these things to this question. And so it's like a guess who. And out of 18 of us, 3 people's favorite movie was When Harry Met Sally, and I am the oldest one. The other
Mm.
2 people are in their 30s,
Oh,
which was so surprising to me
yeah.
that people in their 30s would pick that as their favorite
Because that
movie.
movie came out in the 90s, right?
I think it was either the early 90s or the late 80s,
Okay.
right in that transitional time. But what is also really interesting is the 2 people that picked that as their favorite movie would have been maybe 2 of the last people I would have expected to pick that movie, and that they both are they like a deep,
Mm.
like, they're reading Charles Dickens,
Oh,
and they
sure.
really love Kurt Vonnegut, and um, and they like the one girl's like a movie fiend, like you.
Mm.
She goes to see all the Oscar nominees every year, like that kind of person.
Yeah, yeah.
And her favorite movie is When Harry Met Sally. Sometimes
It's
people
a
really
good pick.
surprise you. I love it. I think it's just the most wonderful of movies.
Yeah,
But sometimes, sometimes people surprise you, and I like that.
I like
Anyway,
that too.
me too. Okay, we really need to stop talking because what time is it? 10:45
Yeah,
at night.
we're recording pretty late today.
Well, and yeah, it's sleepy time for you.
Well,
So
I don't
way
have to
past
get
the
up.
sleepy time.
I don't have to get up early tomorrow, so I'll be
Oh, good.
okay.
That's good.
But
I don't either. So we're okay. We
we're
can sleep in.
fine. Yeah.
That's
But
that's
that's
right.
all the things I have to plug. That was all a roundabout thing from me plugging my podcast.
Yes.
And that's
Sorry
it.
about that.
That's all I
I
have
have
to
a
say.
problem with tangents.
It's fine. It's what
That's fine.
it's the part of the format.
That's part of the fun.
Yeah.
You never know what we're going to talk about,
Right.
and that just makes it fun.
I think so.
Okay. Well, I don't have anything to plug except for the fact that libraries are under attack, my friends. Please support your local library. Go into a library and say to your librarian, hey, thanks for what you do. We appreciate that you provide free services and materials for people in our community. Thank you for caring about the people that live here and the people that come in the building. Because, guys, calling librarians groomers and pedophiles is not a nice thing to do. And that is where we're at right now. And it stinks. Speaking of
Yes.
Roman Polanski, like
Oh.
librarians are not Roman Polanski. We are just people who want to make the world a better place. Please be nice to us. Okay?
Oh, geez, that's a wild comparison.
Well,
Li-
I
li-
mean, that's
like,
what they think we do. That's what they think we do. Like,
li-
and it's not nice. It's just not nice.
librarians' wives were not killed by Charles Manson's gang, and then they went on a spiral and then hooked up with children. That's not what librarians do.
No,
Librarians do.
but they do think we peddle smut to them. So it's not exactly the same,
Not,
but those are
not quite.
literally words that I heard about librarians this week. So
They peddle smut.
guys, librarians are not well right now. We are not well. It is not an easy time
No.
to be a librarian. So, take some cookies up to your library. We love when people think of us. Like it doesn't even have to just to give us a note and say, hey, we appreciate you. Much like teachers and nurses in years past, where we feel, you can see that things are being directed at them, and it was a hard time to be a teacher and a nurse a few years ago. It is a tough time to be a librarian right now, and some people may not be aware of that, but it is the truth of it. And so I would just ask that you do something nice for a librarian. Send an email, tell them that they're appreciated. It would
Yeah.
go a long way.
Yeah, I think that's a
I
good
wanna say.
sentiment.
Yeah.
And also
Okay.
call your mom.
That's right. Support your library and call your mom, people.
Exactly. Okay.
That's right.
Bye-bye.